maybe you remember your first love, like the moments when everything just seems so much brighter all of the sudden, and I felt these butterflies in my bellies, and it was just beautiful, beautiful. And very suddenly, when I heard the news that my boyfriend had died by suicide. And that moment, it felt like my life stopped as well. I started to take those memories from the storage unit, bit by bit, going through, taking a look, writing, crying, writing and crying. And that became my first novel. I was writing that book for the 16-year-old me, because I knew that girl did not want to have help, but she was suffering. So I wrote.
In this episode, I speak with Katja Rusanen. Katja is a #1 best-selling author and spiritual counselor who empowers purpose-driven individuals to make peace with their past and transform their future. With a pragmatic approach, enriched by profound spiritual insights, she helps clients achieve quick and lasting results. Originally from Finland, Katja holds a bachelor degree in business administration and began her career in banking, navigating challenging times from 2007 to 2012. She first felt the calling to help others at the age of 16 after an impactful life event. But it wasn't until years later, when stress from her corporate career led her to seek healing herself, that she fully embraced her purpose and began helping others to heal. Katja pursued her passion by earning a doctoral degree in spiritual science from the Peace Theological Seminary and College of Philosophy in California, along with 2 master degrees in spiritual psychology and spiritual science. Her unique blend of personal experience, education, and practical insights allow her to inspire and guide others towards meaningful transformation. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to the channel. And if you like the episodes, give it a like or a comment. That will be really helpful to get more interesting guests in the podcast and talking about more interesting topics. Thank you very much and enjoy the conversation. Welcome in the Wake Insights, Katja.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your background is quite interesting. So I hear a lot the word spirituality. I didn't even know that these degrees really existed. So I want to hear all about that, what they really entail, and how you came up with doing this kind of work and what that really means to you. So maybe I think it's good to start because we talk a little bit about your background. There were certain pivotal moments that I recognized in your bio as well. To maybe start explaining a little bit what was for you that pivotal moment in your life to really go into that spiritual direction where you're now in for many years.
Sure. And it was a long journey, and I'm so grateful for all the spiritual teachers that I have had on the way and found my way where I am today. Because when this journey started at the age of 16, and it was even before that, but that was a pivotal moment when I went through a life experience that really truly put me on this path. And what happened that time, like, I was 16, and you know the saying, sweet 16. So I fell in love for the first time. And maybe you remember your first love, like the moments when everything just seems so much brighter all of the sudden. And I felt these butterflies in my bellies. And it was just beautiful, beautiful moment. But unfortunately, my love story did not have the happily ever after that we all seek. It ended very suddenly when I heard the news that my boyfriend had died by suicide. And that moment, it felt like my life stopped as well. And the pain that I felt was so overwhelming. And the question why was just like this open wound that never stopped bleeding. It was like, why did this happen? And if I would have been more, like, would he have stayed? And I started to feel that somehow it was my fault.
Mm-hmm.
That I should have seen it coming because I'm very intuitive. And I, by that age already, I knew that I had intuition because my mom had it, and I sometimes we were able to tell things. But then I had no signs, no, and I felt I should have known. I should have been able to save him, and
Yeah.
I felt the heavy guilt as well as the grief, and that put me into a very dark place, so dark that I was very close to follow his footsteps. But
Okay.
luckily, there was this divine intervention. That's what I call it nowadays. Back then, I just felt something extraordinary happened because that saved me on the 11th hour. That made me to turn around because I
Mm-hmm.
felt there was light coming into my dark mind. And I decided that moment, I felt the love that my parents felt for me. I felt this enormous love, and that made me to choose life. And I turned back on my tracks, and I decided that very moment to find a way through this pain
Mm-hmm.
and find a way to live again. That basically felt because I felt part of me died, but then I wanted to live.
Yeah.
And that that choice that I made started put me on the spiritual path because I started seeking answers, and I couldn't find them anywhere else than in spirituality. Like the
Mm-hmm.
question why, that was something that haunted me for years and years. And it wasn't a change that happened in the in overnight when I chose life. It was a long journey through that darkness, but that was a choice. That was a turning point in my life to choose, say yes to life, and
Yeah.
decide to continue.
This why question, what was the why question exactly? Was it like a why did he committed suicide, or was it a question like why did it felt so intense for me, and that you were also like planning to take your own life? Or what kind of why questions were the most prominent back then?
All of those and more. Like I think I asked so many questions why, but it was mainly because suicide often leaves us with questions.
Mhm.
Sometimes there is note left behind, but this was a case where there was no notes. There was just speculations. Why did he choose to leave
Yeah.
this earth, leave me, leave this world? So that was the main question, and then it became also a bigger question: why there is so much suffering allowed in this world? Like that became then also a question between me and God. Like, if God exists, why this suffering is allowed in the world?
Mhm. Mm. Yeah. Have you figured that out in the meantime?
I have found some answers, and that is actually what I have in my book that I wrote. So that's called Your Spiritual Curriculum, and that brought me answers. So it took me it took me some years to
Mhm.
find peace within me, that I'm okay with my past, I'm okay with his choice, and I am okay now to look back into my past, those experiences, those choices that I made, and be okay. Like it was what it was.
Mm.
So that has been that long journey that I have done, and that's a journey as well. Now I want to help others. I want to help them to find light and find that peace with their past.
Yeah, so you have accepted it the way it is and that it's part of life. But did you also got the answers on what you just said before, that why God choose actually to make people suffer?
Well, I think it is often our choices that, like, that when we see this life as a school, that's how I call it, we have often choices.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those choices that we make or they are made for us are painful.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity that comes, though, that I have learned on the way, instead of focusing on the suffering, which I did for many years, by the way, like I was so just seeing the suffering and what we focus on grows. So, of course, then I saw more and more suffering. But what started to happening as I studied with the different spiritual teachers was to start seeing also what came after.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the key is, and that's where maybe these things are allowed here. This is just my speculation, and everyone can have their own ideas why things are allowed here. But it is, again, we have an opportunity to learn. And when we learn from these experiences, that's what I believe is that our soul is here for. It
Mm-hmm.
is really here for learning opportunity, for growing.
Yeah.
And then, even if you have to go through similar situations again, you can relate to these things differently.
I hope you're enjoying this conversation so far. As you probably have noticed, the Awake Insights podcast is more than just a place for great conversations. It's part of something bigger, the True Impact Club. The True Impact Club is a supportive community for anyone who feels called to share an important message or story and wants to reach a bigger audience. Whether you're looking to step onto stages, get featured on podcasts, or simply amplify your voice, the True Impact Club is here to help. They don't only support you in preparing for these opportunities, but also ensure you have a seamless follow-up system in place. That way, when people are inspired by your message, you can connect with them, build meaningful relationships, and even turn those connections into clients. If this resonates with you, or you want to find ways to make a bigger impact, you can find free resources on the website you can find here below. Thank you very much, and let's go back to the conversation. Mm-hmm.
And that was something I learned from the University of Santa Monica, where I studied as well, was that how you relate to an issue is the issue, and how you relate to yourself while you're going through the issue is the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly the same with events that you have experienced, but also other traumatic events.
Mm,
It's not like the event as such that has the biggest impact. It's actually what happens just after and how we process everything. That's actually what creates the trauma.
yeah. Yeah, and the stories we tell about the event.
Yeah.
Because for years, the stories that I told about the event and how I saw myself because what had happened,
Mm,
those were not good stories. They
mm,
were stories that I'm not enough. It was my fault. I'm guilty. And like I was somehow telling a story about the event and taking blame. I was blaming myself.
yeah.
So I was telling the stories through that lens
Mm,
instead of the lens of loving and compassion. So that's why I always love helping now people to pay attention to the stories they tell inside.
mm-hmm,
Like when we go and life has like there's so much happening in life, and so many of us go through some sort of trauma in our life. Like, and I see also there is like trauma with big T, like
mm-hmm,
really challenging experiences, but then there is also everyday trauma, like
mm-hmm,
loneliness, feeling like left alone, all kind of experiences that we go through in life. And those as well influence our stories.
yeah.
And it is, again, we do have a choice there to check
Mm,
what kind of stories we tell, and how we can support ourselves as we are going through this journey we call life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it all has to do with consciousness and awareness to really understand what is happening, and if some events are happening for you, not to you, for you, then to understand, okay, how this is happening and how do I work with that? What do I do with it?
Mhm.
First accepting it, and then allowing it to be there, and then yeah, finding your way to live with it, and yeah, go through it basically.
And what you shared, that was one of my big turning points when I realized that life didn't happen to me, it
Yeah,
happened for me.
yeah.
And it just was like, whoa, I can see now life very differently. And in the beginning, it might be very challenging because if you are in the first impact of trauma, like that is kind of like find yourself a cocoon where you can nurture yourself. But later on, there comes time when you start maybe having that opening to
Hmm.
start seeing things differently, because I believe there is always a stage and time for everything. And like seeing life from that perspective that it happened for me
Yeah.
often evokes that question like, well, if life happened for me, what did I gain from this experience? What did I learn from this experience?
Yeah.
And that's really where we can then shift the energy from that focused on suffering to focused on learning.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is all this this discovery journey that we all have, to take decisions and directions in life that are in line with ourself, and in a lot of cases that didn't happen before because other people were taking basically decisions for you, or there was, yeah, the environment, social pressure, things that you have learned or installed in your program, that you think this is the truth and this is what I have to follow. And I think it really depends how much these programs or these things that you have learned are in line with your own essence. And if there's a big contrast, then I think your suffering will be much bigger. Is that the right word? Bigger. And then your healing journey will be much tougher, I guess. That's just an assumption that I make here. Um, so, but it's something we again have to just accept and realize, and we can fight against it, and a lot of people do that. We can numb ourselves, we can uh, press it down, push it down, try not to look at it for the rest of our life. But some people are not managing that to do that, because some events are just so impactful that they at some point need to have to make a choice.
Yeah.
But not everybody does that. So yeah.
And I'm laughing because I definitely tried those things. Like I tried to back this thing in a nice little box, this
Mm,
chapter of my life, put it in a storage unit, never to look at it again. But it didn't really work well. It just kept coming back like a beach ball. Like when you try to push a beach ball underwater,
yeah,
sooner or later it
yeah,
will come up and it
exactly.
comes up to your face. And it just is an opportunity then, like, hey, here it is, it's universe telling you, okay, how about now,
Yeah,
or how about now, are you ready
yeah.
yet? Let's take a look. And like I really tried, and I stopped talking about this event. I Because basically at one point people started expecting me to be over it. It was just a teenage crush.
Mm,
For somehow for me it was so deep. And but I learned like just put a smiley mask on and just say you are okay, even though inside I totally was not okay. But I
mm,
started just like delivering people what they wanted to see. Like, yeah, she's recovering, she's okay. And I was, because there was also aspects like there was a karate that was a big part of my life, which was very helpful, by the way, because it gave me, I had a coach who told me what to do
Mm-hmm.
because I couldn't see future. But then I was like, okay, today I do this training, tomorrow I do that training. So my life was planned. I had a routine. So I was having that opportunity to keep going.
Yeah.
Then, like, and that helped me also staying very present in the moment now. Because in karate, if you are not present,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get
Then you get knocked
literally
down.
you get literally hit to your
Yeah.
face. So that taught me the presence, being present now. But those were also moments like when I was still pushing back those events because
Mm-hmm.
this was a new group of people. They didn't know my past. So I was able to skip that chapter.
Yeah.
But in my life, that chapter was still within me. It was that
Mm,
deep
yeah.
dark secret,
True.
that we all have those. We all have things that we maybe wish that did not
They were
happen
not
and
there.
they
Yeah.
are in our life and we keep hiding.
Yeah.
And the hiding also creates a barrier because people are really good. They don't, might not know what you are hiding, but they get this feeling there is something that person isn't telling.
Mm.
And that was there for years
Mm.
until I started to discover the courage to take a look. And for me, on my journey, it wasn't until 15 years later. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
15 years, I was carrying that deep dark secret. It was in the storage unit.
Yeah.
Um, it always popped back in, but then I put it back in the box
Mm-hmm.
and put it back in the storage unit. And like, oh, come on now, put more like locks on the door, stay
Yeah.
there. Um, but it wasn't until 15 years later.
Just a quick note. I want to share something that might be valuable for those who are looking to grow their brand or their business. The True Impact Agency is a digital marketing team that supports you in building everything from marketing funnels, landing pages, to ad campaigns and custom websites. Their focus is equipping you with the right strategies and systems to elevate your business and presence. If that sounds interesting, visit True Impact Agency to learn more and book a free consultation call. It's a great opportunity to clarify your goals and take meaningful steps forward. And let's go back to the conversation.
And the curious thing here is like I was in a turning points in my life. Like, and when you are turning points in your life, thinking, oh, where should I move? Should I move here or there? You go to a palm reader, right? That's the most logical
Some do that,
solution.
yeah.
You go to a palm reader. Tell me what to do, and this person told me many accurate things,
Mm-hmm.
very accurate, and I was like, okay, okay. And then he asked me, why don't you write?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I immediately I knew, okay, I have a story to tell, but I was like, I don't know what to say. And this was all in Spanish. So my Spanish wasn't that good that time. So I was like, okay, I agree. I start writing today. So, and I
Nice.
did. I did. And that was actually the key for me, what we talked previously, like life happened to me to shift from that to see life happen for me. It
Yeah.
was the healing power of writing
Yeah.
that I started to see life from different perspective. I started to take those memories from the storage unit bit by bit, going through, taking a look, writing, crying, writing and crying. And that became my first novel.
Mm.
It's based on the core event that I went through, but it was put in fiction because that was easier for me to do, like create other events and things on that book. And but I was writing that book for the 16-year-old me because
Mm-hmm.
I knew that girl did not want to have help, but she was suffering. So I wrote that book to somebody like me who was
Mhm.
going through tough times but couldn't speak about it or didn't want to speak about it.
Mm.
And I put little things there, like that helped me on the way, the little sparks of light, hopefully, for somebody to get through the day. So that really was a beautiful gift that I received when somebody asked me, "Why don't you write?" And
Yeah.
that put me on this journey to with writing.
Yeah, it sounds that it put you really on the healing journey as well. It's more like, yeah, kind of like inner child healing almost. If it, yeah, if it brought you back to when you were 16, when that event really happened, to really comfort you with all the knowledge that you have right now. So that's really beautiful. One thing I'd like to know, you with that spiritual background and that educational background around spirituality, can you explain me what the connection is between spirituality and trauma exactly?
Mm. Well, that is a really good question. And often, what happened, and this is from my perspective, we start, when trauma happens, we start seeking deeper meaning and purpose in life.
Hmm.
Like my question was that why did this happen? But I wanted to find that deeper level meaning, deeper level understanding. And often we don't find it from the mental level or emotional or physical level. For me, it was the spiritual level where I started to see these answers as I learned to see life from soul's perspective through my studies. And I believe that we all as human beings sometimes seek that deeper connection
Hmm.
with God, divine, whatever you call it. And trauma often creates separation. So we are feeling the separation. We feel like God turned his back on us, or we are abandoned because we are suffering. We are here going through these challenging life experiences. But it is an opportunity for us to actually find that deeper level connection
Hmm.
with the higher power, uh, and having that opportunity to, instead of separate, to unite.
Mm. Mm. Does that mean that life as such separates us? Like our evolution, when the moment that were born, we were connected with the mother. Um, we come onto this earth, and then everything that happens after that, does that separates us?
That is a really good thinking. Like, in some level, yes, because we need to learn the individualization in order to get through life in some level. But then there is an opportunity, and some people experience more separation than others. Some just go through life and they feel that deep connection with the higher power all the time. So it doesn't always have to be that way,
Yeah.
but it seems to be that for many, we go through the separation in some levels.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I'm questioning that sometimes. Like, a lot depends on how your parents actually raised you, or your caregivers, you can call them if it's not like your real parents. So, how much you were connected to them, how much you got love from them, or you were accepted by them. Um, I think that's just something that determines a lot of what happens after in life. And I think when in that stage you didn't had that nurturing that you actually should have had, that creates that separation, because um, you don't have that connection that you really need as a young child. The connection from your mother, from your father. But if you don't have that, then yeah, I think it brings you further away from your core nature in a certain kind of way, because you start to develop certain mechanisms, um, certain behaviors to look for that connection and that love, but you can't get it. So there are a lot of symptoms that can come out of that, and that's what we hear a lot of people that experience trauma in certain kind of ways, big, small. um, and then there are exactly moments where you need to heal, have moments of learn more about yourself, self-reflection. And then you start to be so curious, ask so many questions, that it goes a lot further than your own self. That's what I have experienced myself too, actually. So, and then you start to question a lot of things around you. And then you start to question things, why are we here in this life? What does that
Yes.
really mean?
I think
um,
most of us have had that moment like, why?
yeah,
Why are we
that's
here?
and
Seriously.
exactly, and I think then at these moments you can call it like, okay, let's dive into more spirituality. That's for me then more spirituality. It's like there is more than this, there is more than life, there is like we make a connection with something that we don't know yet. Some people are not connected because you're not aware of it, but the more we become aware of it, the more we feel that there's something we are connecting to. And I think that's the big question, always. What is it exactly? How can I learn more about this? How can I connect more about this? What will happen if I connect more with that? And I can imagine that you learned so much about that in your education. So I'm super curious, how have you experienced that journey, that learning process yourself?
Mm. And I believe it's very individual as well. We all have our experience. And what is this thing? What do we call it? And but I feel like it is just seeing that there is something more in this life than what we can see through our physical eyes, what we can see through our spiritual eyes. And luckily, that was something my mom already started teaching me when I was young, child, because she was very intuitive. So I was learning that that was something normal to just know things, and that there was more than what we just know through our mind. So I think that was opening a gate for me to start knowing that there is more things in life. But when I was going through trauma, and this kind of brings back to the aspect of separation, I felt very blocked to connect. People talk about this divine love and
Hmm.
love from God, and I just was focusing on the suffering and just feeling how can I feel love?
Yeah.
And it was that healing journey through what I started to little by little having that connection with what I call soul love, like soul level love. It kind of goes beyond even this this human level of love, like, but just something so pure, like
Mm.
just loving who I am
Yeah.
exactly as I am. Like with everything I have done this life, past lives, every choice I have made, that there is still love for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And that just was like, whoa, mind blowing experience, just to like, even the concept like that there is that kind of love available. And then allowing myself to be open to receive that kind of love.
Yeah.
And there is a Rumi quote that is talking, and I paraphrase it, it's talking about that we are not seeking for love, but we are seeking to let go of the boundaries that we have
Mhm.
created to prevent that love. So we are just clearing away
Yeah. Yeah.
to remembering the love that always have been there. But we forget as as we go through this human journey,
Mm.
and we need to get back to the remembrance of the love that is always there for us.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you also realize then that you don't need anybody else actually to be loved.
Yeah,
It's learning self-love. It's learning that love is always there. You just have to
yeah,
grab it, just to allow it.
yes. And that also helps you then to love others even more
Yeah,
because it
totally.
starts within.
That's so true, actually. Yeah, and that's the sabotaging part, right? And it can take a long time before you really understand that it works in this way. That you actually, yeah, block yourself from receiving love while you need it so much, basically, and that you have to find a way to open up for it, and that's a mindset block, basically, right? Like how do you see that process? Like, what is it exactly that's in the way? It's a mindset.
It's mindset, that's one part. Then what I see often, it's mindset is one. What do we think? But then it's also emotions. If there are emotions that maybe we haven't yet processed, they can come on the way. Like maybe your partner or loved one does something that triggers something within you, and then you stress out because you have something that you haven't yet cleared from the past. And then there is physical level, like actions, what you do or don't do,
Hmm.
and those all are connected, they influence each other, so
Hmm.
we all need to have the support on all of them to be able to be in the loving presence that we all are. I believe
Hmm.
the we are born that way, but then life happens. And then we
Hmm.
have to
True.
kind of
Yeah.
get back to the level of loving and joy that we all can have in this
Mm.
life too.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're born and open to everything, connected to the world, connected to the earth, connected to your mother and everything, and then happens, and then all events starts to happen that are not in line. It brings you out of your center, and you get distracted and then disconnected, and a lot of things really happen. So
Mhm.
yeah, I had another question and now I forgot it because we went a little bit sidetracked. Yeah, it will come later for sure.
No
Yeah.
worries. But what I can actually, what came forward when you were sharing that was like sometimes, yes, it's easy to go to the blame game, like because of my mother or my father or my situation, my circumstances, I'm like this. But like it's an opportunity there. What if, and this is just a game we can play, what if you actually chose your father or you selected your mother to be who they are, knowing exactly the character, exactly like the behavior patterns they might carry in this life, and you still chose them? But that would be in the soul level. Like,
Hmm.
and soul level, I believe, this is my belief, that we are just focused and excited about the learning opportunities.
Hmm.
And then we come here, where it's a little bit much more dense. We have to deal with these thoughts and emotions and the physical level things. And we are like, why did I did not choose this. But what if we did? What if we chose, but we didn't remember all this physical level, like how dense it can be? But we were just focusing on, that's a perfect opportunity for me to learn more loving.
Hmm.
Oh, I can learn more about forgiveness. Wow, that's perfect moment to let go. And that's what I now help people to see, like, let's think about what kind of classes did you sign up in this life. So,
Yeah.
like, if I look my life, I definitely signed up learning to love yourself 101. That was definitely one class I'm in. So, but that's just making it a little bit more bringing more like humor in it. And life can be tough, I get it, but this was something while I was writing the book, and it started to feel very, very heavy because I talk about trauma and challenging life experiences and all that.
Yeah.
And then I got the message from angels like, hey, let's bring some lightheartedness
Mm-hmm.
to into it, just that we can start seeing our life from that different perspective. So if you
Mm.
check your life, what kind of classes you signed up because you have certain type of mom or dad or
Mm.
caregiver or certain circumstances in your childhood, what kind of class were you in? So that's just, if that resonates with you, take it and just start checking what kind of classes you signed up for.
Yeah, I think once you went through a certain kind of classes and development stages, then I think you also realize, I talk from my experience, how liberating and how bright it is on the other side. And at that moment, you then say, okay, this was really worth it. But if you're in the middle of it,
Mhm.
in the middle of the suffering and facing the shadows and going deep and the pain and all this kind of things, then it can be really very really tough.
It can be, yes.
And that's a personal choice for everybody, and not everybody choose to go there. The more I'm into that, the more I see other people running away from it, because that's what I did also for a long time. And and then that's a personal choice. And if you are happy with the mediocre way of living, I can call it, not knowing what is on the other side, be satisfied with the status quo, that's totally fine. But for me, I realized that, yeah, bring me another lesson. I wanna learn it. I want to see what's on the other side, because there is still so much to learn. There is so much potential, and bring it on.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
love that. And one of the things as well, when we are going through those challenging moments, and that is one of the reasons I chose to start sharing my story. I
Mm,
chose to start sharing after 15 years, keeping it as the biggest secret. I started sharing because I was like, if my story can give a spark of light for somebody who is in that dark, dark place,
yeah.
who can't see that there is tomorrow, because I have been there.
Hmm.
So I know how dark it can be. But then if there is just a little teeny tiny glimpse of light, that helps. So I was willing then to say yes, okay, I start sharing my story, but not from the place of the wound, but from the place of the learning.
Yeah.
Like sharing the journey, like life didn't happen to me, life happened for me, and started to share from that place
Mm,
just to help somebody else.
mm,
And I think that's like when we are in that dark, dark place. And I know it's so challenging, but if there is something, even if it's just finding one good thing about life, and I know it can be really hard sometimes to find that one good thing,
mhm.
but just finding something positive, because it's just shifting that mind to seek something good in life,
Yeah.
seek something beautiful, seek something positive, because that way you start training your mind to do that shift from the suffering to that learning little by
Yeah.
little.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's I guess also something that you do with your work, right? I'm curious about that, because if I understand it well, the people that you're working with are people that are already on their spiritual journey in some way or form. They also are even spiritual teachers, if I'm not mistaken. So can you explain me a little bit what you teach them if they are
Yeah.
on that journey? So I'm very curious. Yeah.
I often help who I call so-called light workers. They have gone through some sort of life experiences that got them on the path, like a little bit like mine, sparked that interest to help others. But then they have still this something in the past that is holding them back. Like they feel maybe they don't want to be visible. Like that's a very common thing I help people with. Like they have this calling to help others, but then when it comes to sharing their message, they freeze.
Yeah.
It's just so scary to post on social media or do a Facebook live, or they just feel they just can't do it.
Mm.
And then there is often an event in the past, whether it's the big trauma that they went through or something else on the way that they haven't yet fully resolved.
Yeah.
And even though they have done lots of many times, they have many certifications, they are very established. But what happens when we have fear? We don't want to go there.
Yeah.
So it's so easy for us as coaches, healers, we see things for others,
Mm.
but we need somebody to hold the light for us to be able to go there and see and clear those things, because it is of we are not here on our own. We have support available. So I help them to see the situation from soul's perspective so they can get that learning, they can make peace with the past,
Yeah.
and then they can go out there and do their work in the world with greater freedom. They have that
Mm.
emotional freedom, they have a choice whether they want to do things or not. It comes from that choice instead of fear holding them back from doing things that they want.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's an important consideration when you are on your own healing journey, or you just start your own healing journey, and at a certain moment you think, yeah, there are so many other people I can help with that. To decide when it's really a good time to start doing that, because sometimes it's so important to spend the time on your own healing journey that you cannot take other stories on top of that from other people and heal other people. Um, I remember I once had a conversation with a grief coach, and when I was going deeper into the conversation, she started talking about her own grief, and it became quite clear to me that she's still is in that process. And I was asking, like, so how do you do that? Like, listening to all these other people that have their own grief stories, and how can you take that on top of your own grief, actually? And she admitted that it's challenging. So I can imagine that, yeah, for some people, it's maybe just too early to start helping others, even how big your calling really is. But I think in the first place, you have to think first on yourself, your own healing journey. And once you feel that you're really ready to help some other people, to take then that step. So I understand that, yeah, you work with a lot of people that might experience this.
Yes, yes, and that's often is like there is the calling to do the work, but we also need to do some work within. Not that we need to be ready, because I think we are work in process as long as
As
we
always,
are
yeah,
here. But like that, you find that like more neutral place if you like want to work with somebody other from with grief, that you are at least one step ahead of who you want to help,
yeah,
that you maybe found something and you also learn, and this comes with the practice though, you learn also create the space. I normally work with spirit so it is giving the support for you, because again I believe we are not here alone, and that means also we have spiritual assistance to support us when we do the service that we feel called to do.
yeah,
So it is again like also seeking help for you while you are helping others, because it is having that opportunity to get support. I was so many years without seeking support, so that's why now I'm a real advocate, like
yeah,
catching up with those years when I wanted to do it on my own. And now I'm like, wow, it's so nice. Actually, I have my spiritual counselor that I go, because I have things I don't want to see. So I go for him, and he is helping me to see and get the different perspective, clear things, heal things. But that's again, like, we can help others, but we also need to allow ourselves to receive
Yeah.
support and help.
Yeah, I agree. That's super important. I hear many people sometimes, yeah, how do you say that? Asking for that. A lot of facilitators, they're always hosting circles and workshops and different kind of things, but yeah, it's not. They're not participating in it. So for them, it's also important to continue their healing journey because, like you say, and I confirm that it's like a never-ending journey. It's important that you also stay balanced there, that you have your own healing practices and that you go through your own processes so that you can you sort of be able to serve others in a better way, that it's not going out of balance. I think that's really important. Another question that I have about what you were telling a little bit before is if people go into that realization of, yeah, now it's time for healing. Now I have to dive deeper into myself. I have a lot of questions that need to be answered. I'm going into this journey and then deciding, okay, I can also help other people with that. Don't you think that it's also kind of an economical question that is involved here? Because in many cases, I'm not sure if it's in your case, but it could be based on what I read in your bio. People are operating in a certain environment to earn money, to make a living in a corporate environment or another kind of environment. But when they start realizing this is not something for me, I need to make a change, then they go on their healing journey. But that has then probably an impact on yeah, their financials, making a living. And then the question is, okay, what am I going to do now? I'm on my healing journey. If I choose to do something that I don't really resonate with, just only to make a living and get my finances in order, that's totally not in line with the healing journey as such. So the most common way would be, okay, let's just help other people because with the knowledge and the experience that I have, just to be able to, yeah, have an income for myself. Do you think that plays a role into this as well, or not really? I'm just making this up.
I think yes and no. And sometimes, like for me, when that calling came stronger and stronger, I was working in the banking before, and that was a very good job. Things started to open up from supervisor to management. Like there, I saw those steps, and then my mind said, "Stay." And my heart said it is time to say yes to your calling, and I started even have like a pain in my chest area because I was resisting to make that decision. And when you have the pain in your chest, you start taking things more seriously. I went to doctors, they all, yeah, that's just the stress, so giving ideas and what I can do. But then I knew that was a sign for my from my body, like, okay, you need to follow your path, you need to say yes now to the next step.
Yeah.
And that was a big step, and
Mhm.
not necessarily that I would recommend nowadays. Like, that was just a leap of faith,
Yeah.
and it worked for me. Like, it was tough journey, lots of learning, but it did work. But I did work too a lot. But then there is also alternative options, like maybe you start going part-time and you start building something for you, because there is an opportunity. It depends, of course, your financial situation. Maybe you can just jump and be financially taken care of for a while,
Mm.
but like just having support there as well to get an idea. Because what we don't want is that you get overly stressed about your situation,
Mhm.
and that's kind of puts you into lots of stress.
Mm.
And yes, you have the calling, but you also need to have that kind of plan and steps what you can do with your calling. So
Mm.
that's again an opportunity for you to just clarify, create that vision for yourself, how you want to serve people in the world. And
Mm.
for some, it's a hobby. And for some, it's also the way how they earn their living.
Yeah.
So, whatever it's for you, just have that clarity and that will help you.
Mm. Find that clarity. Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's also a process at itself, which can take some time, of course. Yeah, but I think an important thing that you said is making sure that you don't create additional stressors when you feel that you're in an environment where it's too much for you, and you express that with your symptoms that you just described and everything. That when you take that step, then you don't create extra stressors in a certain kind of way, because yeah, that's not welcome when you're starting a healing journey. I think the healing comes from total relaxation and regulating your nervous system, and putting yourself in states that makes you open for those healing, and that can be challenging for many people, I think.
Yeah, and it is again, yes, sometimes we have this also these big things what we need to do. I need to go and meditate 8 hours per day.
Yeah.
But what if you would meditate 10 minutes per day? Let's start from there. Like my spiritual teachers, they always talk about like microscopic action steps, doing something that you can sustain. So if you are seeking this healing, like finding things in your everyday that you can do easily. And if you want to go meditate 8 hours per day and you have the availability to do that, but
Mm.
if you feel like, hey, I have family, I have responsibilities, but how about if you find 10 minutes or even 1 minute? That's something I sometimes say to people and they laugh. 1 minute, it doesn't even help. Well, if you can do that every day,
Yeah.
that might help because it's just again like the same thing if you want to do exercise and they are like I don't have time for that, like do you have 1 minute, walk on one spot 1 minute, that's
Mm.
something, and
Mm.
that will add up because then it feels so ridiculous, okay, I do 2 minutes or 5 minutes. It will keep adding up, but just finding something you can do and like how can you bring the healing even if it's just one thing per day, but that's for you. That
Mm-hmm.
is a step forward for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. There are good practical tips, I think, that can be super useful to start your journey. There is a big difference between 0 and 1 in this, talk in terms of coding. Yeah, just this intention, that's, I think, what it's all about. Having the intention to do that. 1 minute is something, and from 1 minute you can go to 5 and then to 10, and then also after a while you're gonna really just experience yourself the benefits of it, and that's gonna become your motivation to continue doing it.
Yes. And having support there also, like if maybe you have a friend, maybe you have, even if you feel like you don't have anybody posting on social, okay, sometimes we need the accountability. If that's you, you might do it because when I say something like for others,
Mm.
that helps me.
Mhm.
Sometimes if I just say it within, I might be like, oh, maybe I find a way to do something else. But if I set a promise to somebody else, then it's like, okay, I got to do it. And
Yeah.
then I learned to hold myself also accountable. So
Mm.
that's why, like going back to the karate days, like when I had the training program and I had agreed that with my trainer, I did it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
maybe you have a friend, you can share your plan. Hey, I'm planning now to start doing this thing 3 times per week.
Mhm.
So may I text you when I have done it? And maybe your friend says, okay, cool. Okay, maybe I
Mhm.
do it with you. So, but that way you have some support on the way and somebody to support you with the accountability.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. What are for you the most important blocks, I would call it, in a kind of journey if you work with people? Is that teaching them a certain kind of routine, teaching them certain modalities, or are you having one-on-one conversations, kind of therapy style, to see, okay, how can I change mindset and different trajectories in people's lives? Can you share a little bit about that?
So often it works. My style is very guided through spirit, and I have conversations with people, and we see where they are. Some people are more mental; they are thinkers, and then we might start working through the thoughts first. Like, oh, let's dive in. What stories you are telling? What's there? Like the using affirmations, learning to switch the no to more positive sentences. Then some people are very emotional driven. They have the emotions in the forefront. So that's where we would start, like
Hmm.
checking where does that, for example, anger come from. And we would start doing clearing and energetic healing and spiritual healing work to find the calm and find the spiritual perspective onto that situation so they could then transmute that anger that they felt. And then
Hmm.
some people, and this is what is most seen in the programs and offerings that are out there, they are more focused on the action, the physical level. We do this, we build a online program, but
Hmm.
they are missing the other elements. But for some, it might be more like finding the next clarity of their path. Like, what are they there to do? But the most important thing I do is then helping them to see all that from soul's perspective.
Hmm.
Because that's where the keys for them are to really truly transform their lives. Because they find that peace with their past and that really shifts because
Hmm.
they create that emotional freedom to move forward. So
Hmm.
that's very individual where we start and what we focus on. But that is the really the goal for them to have that freedom
Hmm.
to do what they came here to do and experience the joy of living again.
Hmm. Is that based on certain questions that you ask?
Those questions are often guided for me. Like, yes, there is the framework from those different levels, but the questions that come forward to ask, it's very much guided based on what they share. Because
Okay.
how the spirit works with me, it's like they would highlight certain words.
Hmm.
So they would maybe talk about this and that, and then there is a sentence that captures, it's like highlighted in my mind. And
Yeah, yeah,
like,
I get it.
can you talk more about this summer when you were 6 years old? What happened there? We're like, oh, who were involved? What was going on?
Yeah.
Ah, there was this event. Okay, let's talk about more about that event. So it's that's why it's very spirit led, but it is really wherever they are to meeting them there and finding a way for the highest good to clear any past things that are holding them back and then finding that next step for them. So my style is very much I have the spiritual awareness, but then I want to also ground it to tangible.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's the next step for you? Because I want to ensure that they keep moving forward as well in their life.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Before we close this episode, I always ask the same kind of question, sometimes in a different kind of way. So, is there something that you find important to share to the audience? Something that we haven't talked about, or if not, if it's not a specific topic, maybe there is a certain kind of message that you like to share.
I would like to share that your past does not need to equal your future. It is really allowing yourself to have your dream and believe that it's possible. And yes, I know sometimes we can't maybe dream, but it is then setting intention to see something good for yourself and trusting that you deserve all the goodness in life. And you are a brave soul going through this human experience. So just allow yourself to be supported on this journey because we are not here alone.
Yeah, that's very beautifully said. Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you told me that you're working on a book. If you
Yes.
want to share something about that, maybe that's something that you can do. And then also, if people want to learn more about you and reach out, um, maybe something you can say about that. We will share everything in the comments or in the description below, but it's maybe if you want to share it.
Absolutely. So please, first of all, you find me on social media through my name, Dr. Katja Rusanen. I'm in the most of the channel, but like my favorites are YouTube and Facebook. And YouTube, I share meditations. I share as well some videos that are bringing greater soul awareness avail through, and also talking how you can thrive after past trauma. So those will be in my YouTube channel. And also my book. Oh, that's my baby. Really, it has been this fruit from over 10 years learning journey. And through my studies, I am now sharing what I wrote my practical treatise for, and now I'm also tested the methods that are in the book
Mhm.
during my doctorate studies. And then I had a group who was also part of the studies. We needed to have a study group to test all the methods. So what I'm sharing in my book that is called Your Spiritual Curriculum,
Mhm.
5 steps to make peace with your past and transform your future. Those steps are proven steps. And I am sharing them with you so that you can easily get access to these steps and start implementing this to your everyday life. They are easy, they are quick and simple, but super powerful.
Mhm.
And they can really create the shift within you. They did it for me, and I believe they can do it for you as well, to overcome trauma, because you start seeing your past from different perspective. And that is the key that really helps you to transform your future and make your dreams come true. So I do hope that you will check out the book once it's out, and looking forward then to hear your feedback. So if you read my book, please do reach out and say how was the experience for you, because I'd love to hear and answer also any questions you may have about the book.
Okay, amazing. So you told me it's around May that you're gonna publish it, right? So yeah,
Yes, it's
yeah.
coming out on 6th of May.
Wow,
So
there's an exact date even. Wow, that's amazing.
yes.
That would be very tough for me to put an exact date on that, but yeah, cool. But yeah, I just think it's good if people just follow you on social media, like you say, then they can just see when the book will get published. So yeah, super amazing and very interesting conversation. We discussed a lot of insights, a lot of powerful messages I heard also coming from your side. So thank you very much for all of that. And thank you for your time, for being here, for having this conversation. And I wish you a lot of success with your book, a lot of joy as well in writing it. And yeah, I hope when it's published that many people are going to read it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.